Sticky Thought Thursday. Now, I want to talk to you about your New Year's resolution. And I'm going to share some thoughts and ideas with you because I think what we want to do with this New Year's resolution is think about maybe making it a resolution so that we think about how we're being different with our New Year's resolution. Now, I'm Darcy from Sticky Bee, and I'll tell you it's the place to be because I help you make it super simple to brand you and stand out from the crowd and get noticed. I help you get them sticky, get them stuck, and get them to stay like bees to honey. So when you're thinking about this 2022 New Year's resolution, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to think about where we've come from. And are you still on track? Like we're on day 13. Are you still on track for your New Year's resolution? As we fight through COVID-19 and Delta and Omicron, and are you accomplishing your goals? Or are you just getting kind of stagnant and stalled and everything else with this lockdown and pandemic? And I want to kind of hopefully spark you to think about a whole bunch of things that can lay out in your horizon, because we've got some time to kind of perhaps re-solution ourselves, reinvent ourselves. So let's face it, I mean, being a new beginning, new beginnings are really kind of quite seductive. And we can drift into that la-la land and think about, imagine if we were 15 pounds lighter and we could actually wear a waistband instead of those sweatpants we've been wearing since forever. Or imagine what it might be like to get out of the job that you're in and do something new. So what I want to do is try and spark a few of those ideas for you. And to have you think about, really, where is your resolution going and how is it going so far? And if it's kind of stalled on day 13, you got to believe it might not have been the right resolution. It might not have been the right goal setting. Perhaps you haven't, perhaps you're listening to some of the negative Nelly comments that are coming in your world. So let's take a look at how you can put some other ideas in place. And if we think about maybe making the impossible possible, what does that mean? What if you didn't set any kind of parameters or anything else in your space? And what if you actually really kind of just put a silence to those thought thieves? And, when you think about what the thought thieves are, really, what does that mean? Well, it can be things like your mom said, well, you've always been a chubby girl, so don't think about trying to lose weight. Or perhaps it was your boss that said, you'll never make it on your own, so you're in this job forever and don't think about doing anything else. Or maybe these negative Nellies are actually coming from you when you say, well, I'm really just such a loser, I can't do anything anyway. Now, our brain has an interesting way to work. And here's the essence of that. And I'm going to get into this later in other kinds of Sticky Thought Thursdays. But if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you won't. Because your brain wants to prove you right. So a big part of all of this negative Nelly conversation and the demons that come out to say we can't be successful are really just a whole bunch of bad conversations that we just have to lay to rest. So when we think about what this is all about and the things that you want to accomplish, and it really is about silencing this conversation and what the boss says you can or cannot do. And perhaps taking a different look about how you position your resolution. So in other words, if you're on about, I just want to get rid of this muffin top so I can actually wear a waistband. Maybe this isn't the vision you want to have. Perhaps what you should be looking at is, instead of the muffin top, think instead about, I want to wear that little black dress. And maybe you want to set a little date to this little black dress so that you can make small little incremental steps, because accomplishing a goal doesn't start here and tomorrow you're there. It's all about the little steps you can make along the way and giving yourself little rewards along the way. So if you've got a muffin top and you want to get into a little black dress, maybe what you want to think about is, can I walk 2 miles a day instead of 1? Can I walk for 20 minutes a day instead of just 10? Can I stop eating at 6 o'clock at night and then just have some fruit before I go to bed? Perhaps you think about the little incremental changes you can make rather than going from one to the other, and give yourself some little rewards. And you may want to just be kind to yourself in this whole process. And the other thing that I think you want to think a whole bunch about is that when you look at what you're doing in your work world, and you want to just stick a fork in your eye with your career or your job, and then you had to bring your job home. So now your 9 to 5 has grown from sundown to sunset, or from sunset to sundown, and you're working way more hours. You're not making that much more money, and frankly, what you are is you're not only bored, but you're sick and tired of doing the same thing over and over again. So a resolution can be a whole bunch about rethinking where you are and some things that you want to accomplish. And it's not always all about the money. So think about, if your job is not giving you the kind of satisfaction you want, maybe consider doing some other things. And I'm going to talk about some other things you can do in further kind of little sticky thoughts as we get through the month here. But maybe you also want to think about taking your dreams off the shelf. And a lot of us have put those dreams on the shelf, and we've said, when I get around to it, or when I've got the time, or when I've got the money, or when this happens. And I think what the pandemic has taught us is we don't know what's going to happen. But if you are uncertain about how your future is going to unfold, perhaps you want to be more in control of your future. And that can happen when you take the reins, when you decide what you want to do and how you're going to do it, and then end up doing something you love. Because if you are passionate about what you're doing, you are more likely to stick with that new resolve or resolution in terms of moving forward. And what that also does is it then also allows you to get rid of these thought thieves and stop listening to the naysayers and the negative Nellies, and start saying, but I love this so much, I believe in it, I want to make it work. And those are the kinds of things that you want to think about as you go along to stop these thought thieves. And if you are passionate about what you're doing, it makes what you're doing that much more committed. There is a resolution to making it happen. So we are all creatures of habit. And what this is all about is your resolution or your resolve is changing things, as I say, not in big leaps and bounds, because that's a much harder habit to come into. But if you do small little tweaks along the way and set new habits, doing more of what you love and less of what you hate. So here's some things I want you to think about as you maybe confirm your resolution, because we are on day 13, as I said, and it's just really easy to move on the other side of your resolution and say, oh, well, I didn't really want to do it anyway. So let's take a look at some things that are going to help you with your resolution. You want to, first of all, set realistic goals. And as I was beginning to say, you want to make sure that you eliminate obstacles that you control. And sometimes we set up our own obstacles. So this is all about talking kinder to yourself and being realistic about what you're doing. But if you're putting your own obstacles in the way, you've got the power to move those out of the way. If you're doing something that you really, really love, do more of it. Do more of it. And if you really love it, you'll be committed to being very good at it and making it successful. But if you're working at stuff that you really hate, you got to do less of that. Like, let's be realistic here. How can you be happy if you're doing something that you hate? Now, I think this isn't a surprise to anybody, but everything's changed. Have you? Are you setting goals based on what's gone before? Because those goals may not be very realistic today. They may not be very realistic in the near future. So set about creating things that you can accomplish according to 2022. It's a whole new you. Have you changed? Are you about to change? And I think this is a really important one to take a look at, that when you look in the mirror, make sure you see yourself. Don't try and be someone else. Be more of you. And what I want to close with here is this thought that I think it's really, really good, that if you don't have the right mindset to make changes in your life and change your habits, even in small ways, it is all about mindset. And if you don't have the right mindset and techniques, you're not going to accomplish any of the things you set out to do. Because the battle for our lives is in our mind. And your mind, our mind, creates our thoughts. And our thoughts govern our beliefs. Our beliefs govern our actions. And our actions create our life. So act as if you're already there and believe in your success. And think about when you look in the mirror, make sure that you see yourself. Don't try and be someone else. Just be more of you. And with that, I will say Happy New Year in 2022. And we've got some great things that we can accomplish, and I look forward to accomplishing them together. And stick with me on Sticky Thought Thursdays, because I'm unrolling a whole little program geared to spark your kind of thought process on maybe there's some other things that I could do here. Imagine if I talk to myself a little friendlier, if I talk to myself a little kinder, and I took those dreams off the shelf. What are those dreams? What could I be working at that I really, really love? So that's my question to you. What could you be doing that you're not doing right now? Let me know. I'm going to share with you my resolution for this year, next week. And I think you're going to be surprised, because even old farts can have New Year's resolutions and change the way they do things. Just because you are of a certain age doesn't mean you're stuck where you are. I certainly am not prepared to be stuck. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.